Outlined for you. We shall be taking a look at what's making headlines internationally and also taking a look at devolution and what the Senate standoff is degenerating into for the devolved unit and how they're becoming unsustainable in terms of their operations. We will be having two governors joining us later on, Professor John Lonyangapour as well as Professor Kivutha Kibwana, to just give us a picture of what is happening at the county level and why some of these measures are becoming necessary. Far from that, we shall also be taking a look at affordable healthcare, and we shall have a special panel telling us why 10 years on we have not achieved this and what needs to change in order to make that a reality. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by answering our Twitter poll question. Today, we are asking you, what do you think is the biggest threat to devolution? What do you think is the biggest threat to devolution? I'm at Trix Ingado. The hashtag to use is KTN Morning Express. Get on Twitter, tell us what you think, your experiences, the benefits you have seen in your area, and the things you think are standing in the way of the success of devolution. I shall be sampling your views and making you a part of the show. But first, let us take a look at what's making headlines on the international scene, and we are going to start off with one of the citizen that is from Tanzania, just to take a look at what's making headlines in that part of the world. They're saying why Kenya lost Uganda crude oil pipeline deal to Tanzania. Very interesting take there. There has been a lot of conversation about this, and we are being told here nearly 4 years after Uganda abandoned Kenya in building the oil pipeline that would have transported its oil to Lamu, it has now officially signed a $3.5 billion deal with Tanzania, leaving Kenya on the sidelines. So take a look at that to get the details of that. And then we have the Daily Monitor this morning telling us why ex-minister Nantaba shunned NRM primaries. Miss Ida Nantaba in 2015 declared that she had quit the NRM party over what she termed as massive vote rigging. And on both the Citizen and the Daily Monitor, we're being given an overview of COVID-19 and the number of confirmed cases. Kenya, as obviously, is in the lead. Then we have Rwanda. The Rwanda Today is the website's name. Rwanda mulls over self-virus tests at homes. The PCR test costs around 48,000 Rwandan money, and then the cost that is not within the reach of many. So therefore, there's that very interesting question of how much you're going to have to dig into your pocket if you're in that country to be able to test yourself at home. And then we have there South Africa. This is the Bloomberg paper. South Africa to fight graft to boost mining in a recovery plan. South Africa hails success in tackling virus and reopens border. That is a very good thing for that South African nation. And then the CNN this morning is leading with Trump contradicts and demeans CDC director, and that is Dr. Redfield, who testified that masks may be more effective against COVID-19 than a vaccine. So the U.S. president claimed he was confused. And then we have more stories here surrounding the presidency. Trump has done one thing really well as U.S. president, and that is an analysis you can find on the CNN website. And then we have the Al Jazeera taking us to the Middle East, telling us about Israel's normalization. It is Saudi Arabia softening its stance after a deal with the UAE and Bahrain. There are signs Saudi Arabia is preparing its people to warm to Israel. And then there are more stories from that part of the world. Take a look at it and see what is the latest in terms of news, analysis and reviews. So let us get into the local papers, and I'm being joined by Gloria Oroba, who is a youth policy analyst. Welcome to the show, Gloria.
Asante sana. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, let's just jump into it and start off with the Standard newspaper this morning. We're told here on the paper, Raila's son shock verdict on ODM. This is a tweet that has had a lot of people talking about it, and I'll just quote it. The story itself is on page 6 of the Standard. He tweeted, "We as ODM need to find our way back to the basics." He says, "We are not just about private jets, slay queens while abusing rival politicians. We have developed a developed agenda clearly outlined in our manifesto. Let's focus on serving service delivery, democratic space, and protecting private citizen rights. And then, of course, after a lot of talk about it, he was, of course, alluding when it comes to the jets to Governor Hassan Joho, and this is what the article says, and then National Assembly Minority Leader Junet Mohammed, that were a few months, I think a few weeks ago, pictured in a jet. Perhaps they were traveling abroad to actually take to meet the ODM leader Raila Odinga. So he later on clarified that his views are his own and not the party's. But I think, given how far this conversation has gone, the damage had been done. What do you make of this? Are you in agreement with what he says?
I don't think it's damage.
Yeah.
He said the damage had been done. I think it's either two things are happening here.
Yes.
ODM has actually realized that as a party, they've picked up fights with so many people to a point that post-handshake, if anything were to go wrong with that handshake, it will be very difficult for them to, extend an olive branch to either one of the other parties or individuals. So this could be a way of them trying to, find a safe landing spot in terms of trying to show the public that as much as we have some ODM party leaders going a certain direction, there are other party leaders who are willing to come to the table and talk about the real issues of what Kenyans are discussing. That's one side of it. But it could also be that these are to me, Raila Jr. could also be a future destiny.
Okay.
A future dynasty, because what he's trying to do yesterday was he was trying to flex his muscles to show that even if you have a party, you have party officials like the party chair Mbadi, who actually said that that Junior is a mayor. He's nothing but a mere son of a party leader. So he was trying to, I think he was also trying to flex his muscles to show, as much as they're leaders, I have a say and I can sway this party to a certain direction.
Right.
So one or the other, yeah.
Right, and then we have Martin Olo here poking holes on the party's stand on graft, saying ODM has never been known to have a firm stand on the vice. He said the party was formed as a result of a rebellion in 2005 constitution, rather than some of these ideologies that Raila Odinga Jr. is alluding to in his tweet. Do you agree with that?
I believe that ODM is a socialist party. And the reason they are confused right now is that they've always been known to fight for the rights of the private citizen. They've been known to go out and ensure that certain privileges for the people are actually protected. And then suddenly, after the handshake, we see them taking a completely different stand on different things that are basically siding with the system that is there to discriminate against the private citizens. So Raila Jr.'s tweets have, I think it's a way to also say, guys, as much as this is going on with the handshake and government and our position has been compromised, I would like for the public to know that there's somebody in that party, and that person is me, who still cares about the rights of the people.
Okay. Now, there's more on this one, and of course the reactions, and then the fact that he later on came back and clarified that these are his views and that not those of the party. What do you think happened in between those tweets?
Tricks, I was celebrating about, finally somebody in ODM, finally someone is, telling the king that, you're naked. And then before I even put together my thoughts in writing, a swift apology came in that sincerely looked that it did not come from him. I actually believe that apology was drafted. I believe Junior aliitwa, akachunwa masikio, na akaambiwa, listen, you might have your own thoughts, but you embody some sort of influence in this party, and we cannot allow you to go against what the party is pushing for.
Yeah, and I'm going to just read that clarification here. He later on tweeted and said, clarification, as an ordinary ODM member, my views are my own and not that of the party. I'm grateful to ODM for allowing democratic space in which different views and opinions are expressed. And he then added that my views were not targeting any leaders, and I apologize for any misunderstanding caused. And that basically is the long and short of it.
And Tricks, Tricks, you know why I think it was drafted for him? Because the day before, the party chair, Mbadi,
Yeah.
was actually on one of these stations, and he was quoted saying that Junior is just a mere son of a party leader.
Okay.
Now, when you look at the statement that now Junior came to clarify, it says, I'm just an ordinary,
ODM
this
member.
So yeah, to me, I don't believe that is coming from Junior. I actually think that the party sat him down and told him, you must put out a clarification, basically.
And let's take a look at another story also in the Standard, and on the front page it's being teased as why they want reggae stopped. BBI roadblock. Governance activists moved to court to scuttle Uhuru and Raila Pet's projects for national unity, claiming that it undermines the substance of the constitution. And there's more details right next to that Raila Jr. story. Ndi activists ask court to switch off BBI reggae. It says in parts, if of course, this is a quote from the one of the petitioners, if certain fundamental constitution provisions, principles and values are amended or seriously altered, the life of the constitution will come to an end. And there's it's a very detailed article here giving you which parts of the constitution they want to be protected by hook or crook. What do you make of this one?
I think there's a reason that we safeguard and we put stopgap measures in certain documents or things that we want to ensure that are protected, no matter the circumstances that a country is going through. And I've read, I think this is by Jerity Say, David Ndi, and two other fellows. And I think the basis of their argument is that there are 5 chapters of the Constitution that are the fundamental of our constitution. And the moment those chapters are affected, the entire law is actually going to be changed. They're talking about chapter 4 on bills of rights. There's the chapter on judiciary, that of executive, and the one that...
chapter 9 and 10.
The sovereignty of the people.
Yes.
Their argument is that these chapters are the fundamental of the constitution. The moment any of them are altered, then we're not talking about an amendment, but we're talking about the change of the entire law. In which case, then, if that has to happen, it has to go through a referendum. That's how I understand it. So technically what they're saying is that the stuff that is allowed to be pushed in form of amendments through parliament must not affect either one of these 5 chapters. If it does, then that whole process cannot be taken up, cannot go through in parliament, and must be considered as a referendum. So my understanding of what's going on, actually, my basic understanding is that it's the people who went in and voted to get in the constitution, yeah? And if we're going to change that constitution in a level that it's not really a phrase here on an amendment, then we must go back to the people. And my position on this whole BBI has been from the beginning that it is actually illegal, because the process with which they are trying to change a whole constitution is not supported legally by the constitution. It's not supported in law. So if they are really interested in expanding the executive, which that is what I believe the purpose of BBI is, if they're really interested in expanding the executive, my take would be, just as the Punguza Mzigo team decided for them, they wanted to abolish the Senate, they wanted to abolish the deputy governor position. They wanted to touch on items that would change the constitution on these 5 chapters. And it was clear for them that they were going for a referendum. So they structured it in a way that, yes, we feel that this constitution is not working, we are going for a referendum. And they went around and they tried to get the support of the public. Of course, it failed. But if BBI, the drivers of BBI also have an agenda of touching on the executive, touching on the judiciary, and even abolishing some of the institution, as we are now hearing is the purpose of BBI, they should just try and push for the referendum. Let them come to the people, who, by the way, are not interested in referendums or things like that. They're interested in economic recovery. Let them go to the people and try and sell that. and see how far they can come with trying to get us to a referendum.
Yes, and the article just, it has a summary of what they want from the court. They want the court to shield 5 key chapters of the Constitution from any changes, declare that there are limits to how much amendments can be made. At the same time, for courts to declare Parliament has no power to pass a law which destroys the basic structure of the Constitution, and for the court to order each party to bear their own costs. So that is just 4 of the elements. And if you want to know who the people behind this move are, it's economist David Ndii, Jerotich Shea, Jen Ngodi, Wanjiru Gikonyo, and Ikal Angelei, who are seeking to stop the reggae completely with their eyes on sections of the law which are the heart of the BBI drive. That is a direct quote from that article. Yes.
If I might add there, I really support the idea of shielding those 5 chapters.
Yes.
Because as you know, Chapter 4 touches on the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
And a couple of, I can't remember which year, but the issue of being arrested and detained without trial or without a charge sheet and whatever, that touches on the Bills of Rights. And if you look at some of the amendments that were passed through, when, in Parliament that are now affecting the specific Bill of Rights when it comes to being, you should not be detained without trial or without treason. You can see what's happening to Oscar Sudi because of the amendments that were done and passed. For protecting and shielding these 5 chapters, I feel is something we should really push for.
And Oscar Sudi, speaking of the Kapsaret Member of Parliament, is on the front page of the Daily Nation. We're told more days behind bars. Kapsaret Member of Parliament at the Nakuru Central Police Station yesterday for a virtual court ruling on 5 counts of hate speech, assaulting a police officer, offensive conduct, resisting arrest, and illegally processing a firearm. He will be detained for another 7 days at police complete investigations. What is your reaction to that?
I feel as though we have created too many legal loopholes by certain amendments, and it has become sort of the Constitution and parts of the law is something that if I'm in power, I can use to get my way with things. Because honestly speaking, if you look at the reason why they are still detaining Honorable Oscar Sudi, does that even make sense to you? I saw someone saying that they needed to carry out investigations about the ownership of a vehicle, registration numbers and things like that. And someone said it took Kenyans on Twitter 1 day. So why are they detaining Oscar Sudi for over 7 days in the guise of that we are following due process? So this is the reason why I really support this initiative of protecting and shielding these 5 chapters, because certain amendments that have been created and that were passed are starting to infringe on Chapter 4, on our Bills of Rights. And this is a clear example when you look at Oscar Sudi's case.
Okay, let's shift gears to what's happening at the Senate, and that is also part of what the conversation that we're asking you to be a part of on Twitter. We're asking you, what do you think is the biggest threat to devolution? And later on, we shall have an expert panel, governors telling us where the shoe pinches. But far from that, there is an article here in the in the Standard that tells us senators, governors in war of words over counties' cash. Now, here is a quote from Wycliffe Oparanya, chair of the Council of Governors. He says, "It seems like senators have just woken up from their 5-year slumber. They knew about the formula 5 years ago, yet they have continuously treated the country to theatrics." And just underneath that one, we have an article that tells us that the governors are suing senators over that revenue standoff. And quotes here from Machakos Governor Mutua, Alfred Mutua, and Senator Mohamud Mohamed. What do you make of this one as it continues to drag along?
It's all fun and games until a Council of Governors that threatens to shut down essential services such as healthcare facilities, emergency services. Because at one point, the people will go to the streets at one point. And I feel as though when I look at what's going on, to be honest, my take is that the executive, together with a certain few, are actually trying to put pressure on the Senate to accept a formula, the Kangata formula that was tabled,
yes.
to accept it because the pressures from the people on the ground and from the people who elected them will be too high when you're shutting down facilities. So, and at the end of the day, it's about bulldozing that formula of Kangata. It's about, okay, we might have failed passing it in the Senate, we might have failed in the 12-member committee, whatever. They've tried all sorts of ways to force this thing down, and they failed. So I see it as the Council of Governors has actually, because let me ask you, why haven't they reduced the 50% monies based on the old formula? Because there was an order that came from the court that basically said, until you guys figure out what formula you want to take, release this money so that the counties can continue operating. And I understand when the governors are saying there's no money, because really it's like a business. If there's no money to keep your electricity on, to sustain your operations, at one point you got to shut down. But the point of not having that money, why isn't that money released? So this is where I see the executive and certain people trying to use certain systems to put pressure on the Senate so that the Senate can pass a formula that they are not comfortable with, so that the Senate can basically go back in line and say, okay, we'll take the Kangata formula and and move.
There's a similar article on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. It says cash stalemate, broke counties now forced to shut down, and a casual later by the Senate on ending the revenue sharing stalemate coupled with House leaders snubbing crucial talks made governors to order a shutdown for cash-strapped counties. That's what we're told about that on the Daily Nation. It also goes deeper to tell us that they have been operating without the crucial funds for over 3 months. I mean, what do you make of the argument about population versus, land mass?
I think that argument has been belabored. And unfortunately, I actually had a conversation, I think it was yesterday, where there was this feeling that now the Senate is happy that they've been given an extra 50 billion. And, now the cake is bigger, so it's easy for them to share. I really was wondering, if you have 20 shillings sharing among 7, then you get 40 shillings sharing among 7. The formula, if you have not on a formula, the formula is the same,
I agree.
So, and that's why, to me, when okay, now we're going to add this, I wonder, is this, the problem was never really about land mass and against population. It was about the cake that's going to count it. Because I'm really that now that they have 50 billion, will they now dedicate a certain chunk of that 50 billion towards the historically, financially marginalized counties? I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that is not the question. Now, let's take a look at a story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Briefly, we're told tough times for learners and teachers. The rules, this is, of course, guidelines as they go back to school. Plays, dramas, music and sports remain suspended. And, of course, those are things that kids really celebrate as they go or as they go along with their curriculum. Learners required to eat in shifts and, of course, to ensure that the interaction is minimal. Temperature checks for all learners, teachers and support staff every morning. Pre-primary learners shall be released to go home immediately after the day's lessons. No siesta in school, as well as every school must have a room for temporary isolation in case there's a suspected case of COVID-19. What do you make of this, and can we achieve it given the infrastructures and the things that the way our schools are structured at the moment?
What I make of this is whichever committee that sat down with the Ministry of Education and received allowances to come up with this stuff, they need to refund our money back. because this really, you want to tell me after 6 months, 7 months of deliberation with expert opinion, coupled with the Ministry of Health and all sorts of, this is what they've come up with, that they're going to release the kid early, that you have to sit 1 minute aside. I think we are joking.
Yeah.
I really think we are joking. Yes.
So that is your conclusion. This is a joke. They'll take a look at the